G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. Welcome to Pivot the Path. G'day golfers and welcome to Pivot the Path. So named because every time a hurdle comes up, you got to pivot, keep moving forward. We hope this finds you well. We've had an interesting week in golf, haven't we? Haven't been a lot of tour events played, which we'll get to in a second, but it's certainly been an interesting and talkative week in the world of golf and all things sport. So our improvement pivot point this morning is going to be, again, tying off what happened on PGA Tour, which we'll get back to in a second, and trying to get us to discuss how to be consistently better at shooting, hopefully below 75, if approaching scratch, if you've got a little more time. So, news from the fairways, lots going on in the world of sport. And we have started to include just a couple of sports that I love, being an F1 fan. We had the F1 in China, which was a fantastic new circuit. And isn't it funny? This whole podcast is to keep it high and tight on facts and figures and math and be very specific and most importantly, be consistent. So once again, the McLaren boys of Piastri and Lando came 1-2 in the Chinese Grand Prix. Why? Probably because they've been consistent in their vehicle now for a couple of years. And young Oscar, Aussie, mate, another win for you. Fantastic. Lando backs it up with a second. And the American chap, name forgets me right now, who's their GM, he must be so proud that he's kind of put a plan in place over the last 18 to 24 months. And now McLaren are starting to pip out all the others. So I'm absolutely stoked for that because it also levels the playing field on the F1 playing field. It's not just Red Bull. Now, what we're going to find out is whether that's a car issue or a Max Verstappen issue to see who continues to win. So F1, watch it. Why? Because it's so exciting. Everyone can win. March Madness here in the US is a basketball event for those non-basketballers. We have 3 in our family of 4 kids. And as a non-basketballer, I'm absolutely elated. I think, pound for pound, it's the best single sporting event in the world. Why? Because every college basketball team has the option to go to March Madness and get to the top 62, 64 teams. So 64 teams peg it up, so to speak, in the March Madness event. But to get to those top 64, 32 are from the year before and 32 have voted in. So in theory, every college basketball team can get into that top 68, 64, what's 4 teams. And so what we're doing here is getting to the top, the last 16 here. And then it starts to get real. And so March Madness, if you don't watch it, watch college sport. These kids are trying to subtly get into their NBA scouts, and it's just the most amazing epitome of emotion and just raw talent. So we love that. Now, get back to a little bit of golf here. We did have a quiet golfing week because we didn't have LIV, we didn't have LPGA, we didn't have the Corn Ferry. So we're only down to DP and PGA Tour. So DP Tour, we had Richard Mansell had his first win, which was fantastic. In the Porsche DP event. There's only 3 rounds. I actually tried to Google why it was only 3 rounds, but not quite sure. But I really love this. So first time winner on DP Tour. Should have probably won a couple of years ago, and I love his post-round interview. And look, I didn't watch a lot of the DP Tour, if truth be told. but I always try to watch the last 18, 9 holes. And one thing that Richard said, which I love, he said, I pointed the finger at too many people. He said, I was so quick to point the blame at other people where really I needed to look inward, look my demons in the face and actually step up to the plate. So it was just a wonderful post-round interview of, hey, I'm the guy hitting the golf ball. I can blame every Tom, Dick and Harry, but I'm the one that actually has to pull the trigger with commitment, which he said, reading between the lines, that he didn't do over the last couple of years. And it seems as though he's really looked at himself in the mirror and said, right, what do I have to do better? And what is it? Own your swing, be more consistent. So Richard, power to you. Something tells me we might see a little bit of you in the British Open and then events leading up. And Elvis Smiley, young Aussie we follow on DP, didn't play. So I'm not sure where Elvis is in the world. Hopefully he's healthy. Usually if young guys don't play, usually means they're not healthy. So hopefully you don't have an injury. Which leads us to PGA Tour. And what I was hoping to do and was to mention a couple of comments that Scottie Scheffler threw out there about LIV in last week, which I think is fundamentally unfair and very naive. But he is the world number one, so absolutely has the right to say whatever he wants. But Scottie Scheffler threw some comments bagging the reason we have such a fracture in golf is because of the LIV players. And I'm like, oh, buddy, that's a little naive coming from a very one point of view. Let's get back to what LIV did. LIV Golf created a question mark to the monopolistic tone of the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour, the R&A, basically are controlling global golf, which is not fair. We shouldn't have two individual entities controlling global golf because all the other countries in the world that can't afford to play in the sandbox really don't get a voice, and golf is a global game. Why? We are all here to grow the game of golf. When Scottie gets on and says that the LIV players are to fault for the fracture of golf, I'm going to throw at you. As a golf professional, you are an entrepreneur because you are trying to put food on the table for your family as best you can, playing the game, making videos, content about the game. For us, we're building golf clubs in the game of golf. We are here to grow the game of golf. And as entrepreneurs, however we can drive an income for that, we should be celebrated. So it's not so much the LIV guys creating the fracture. It's the fact that there is an opportunity to grow the game outside one entity, the PGA Tour. And what the LIV Golf has brought to the game of golf, it's changed the way the PGA Tour structure their money. It's broadened their horizons of how much the funds trickle down to Corn Ferry and so forth. It's broadened how the PGA Tour have actually looked at their exempt players. So now, unfortunately, that top 100, if you're outside the top 100, sorry, you're going to have to go back to Q school or get better status. What LIV has done, it's shaken up monopolistic tones. And so I think LIV has been fantastic. That said, I absolutely know that golf's not in a great spot now because we don't have the best players playing each other week in, week out. Do I watch LIV? No, I find it very boring. But the actual entity to challenge the status quo has been a fantastic thing. So, Scottie, I think you should do your homework a little more. Someone like Bryson, who's been given all this cash, we wouldn't have the fantastic YouTube commentary of him breaking 50. We wouldn't have him building a community in his local town. I mean, the funds that LIV has allowed these players to, not all, some, to actually broaden their horizons and grow the game of golf has been nothing short of outstanding. So we're totally high and positive on growing the game of golf. So let's just bring golf back to how do we find solutions to get the best players in the world playing the majors. I cannot wait for the Masters. So getting back to the men of the Masters, who are very much a controlling entity themselves, that's all invitation only, which it's 75 players. We should grow that to at least 120. Now, the whole thing's Cinderella and control. They've got to lose a little bit of control and grow. What's our job here? Whether it's pivot the path, whether it's swing, our job is to grow the game of golf. Instead of the Augusta women's event playing one round with like 15 ladies at Augusta, let's play 3 rounds at Augusta for these ladies. It's so controlling. And there's 12 players from LIV playing in the Masters this year. So I really hope a LIV player wins it. Bryson DeChambeau. So getting back to news from the fairways of the PGA Tour, we had a fantastic blast from 2 years ago past. We had the 2022 PGA Major winner, Viktor Hovland, closing with a 4-under last round to win the Valspar, which was absolutely superb because Viktor has gone into a little bit of the abyss which your Jordan Spieths find themselves. Justin Thomas played well. We've talked about Justin a lot here. And it was just so fantastic to see Viktor back to his best. So 2022, he wins the PGA Major. 2022, he was absolutely bulletproof. He then goes in the abyss for a couple of years. And by word of the commentators, the poor chap has had 6 different coaches in the last 12 months. And I don't know Viktor, I've never met him, but I would suggest it all started because his short game was a little untidy. And if you Google his own interviews, he couldn't play that little spinner. So if he ever short greened himself and he was chipping down breeze, he really needed to be able to control ball flight. And it would appear objectively, keeping it high and tight on facts and figures as we do here, as soon as he changed to be able to play that little chip shot, his whole game went out the window, which is what out the window, still on PGA Tour and still a hell of a player. But relative to how good he was back in 2022, it's taken him a couple of years to get back online. And what we wanted to do was parlay his tour victory on the Valspar to our improvement pivot point. And what that is our role here at Pivot the Path is to be consistent on being better when you leave a session than when you began. Again, what I'm noticing with our community and with every community on the face of the earth on this game, golfers are simply not consistent in their approach. And what we're doing here at Swing is making golfers consistent so that when they leave an hour of a time of practice or they leave 2 hours in here spending practice, they're better than when they came in. So without further ado, let's go figure out what we're doing with our improvement pivot point. And we just wanted to explain how we see Viktor's win. And if you notice his comments, he said, I still hit those high right shots, which means his club face is open. Why would a club face be open? Well, he's learned to change and improve that little spinner shot, which you've got to have a club face that's about 70 degrees open. So my point is that for someone, myself, who never brought up playing that low spinner, it's not in my bag. I can play it if I really have to. But to do that shot, you need certain physics and math. And to play that shot, it really brings into the bag the high and right shot for the rest of the game. The point is, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. Thank you, Sir Isaac. And when Viktor started playing that low spinner, his high right shot really started to take over. And to his point, he didn't believe he could win the PGA Tour, words out of his own mouth, and he just won this last week. So it means that, and I'm a huge fan of Viktor, look out when he starts controlling his ball flight again, because I think he's going to win and win and win, which we love. So let's go chip a couple. What I wanted to do is bring this back on how can it help you improve. So our improvement pivot point is, hey, when you start working on that fancy low spinner, be very careful what it does to your whole game. Let me explain what that means. Okay, so welcome back. Improvement pivot point. This, in my opinion, this is probably one of the most important podcast videos we've done to date, other than side bend and really working on your body. What Viktor did was his short game around the greens didn't have that low spinning shot. And so he's really worked hard to improve that. And what I thought I would explain is that that spinny shot basically has some math attached. And it all comes down to what you want to do with your golf. Our job here at Swing is to create an environment where when our community comes in, they leave a better golfer. Now, what this spinny shot does, it makes your consistency very, very difficult. Why? Because you start to change some serious parameters in getting the job of returning your club face to where it started. It makes it very difficult. What's the rule of golf? Face less than path. So I teach short game very differently to most. The first thing we do is explain the bounce of the club. So I've got my high bounce and I've got my low bounce. To hit that low spinner, you've got to have the highest lofted club. In this case, it's my 59. Now, I need to launch the ball mathematically below about 40 degrees. So if I look at this T-square here, my sternum is where the club hits the ground. My low point is my lead shoulder, my left shoulder socket. That's undeniable. Again, if you just look at that low spinner, the ball needs to launch at 40. I need to have an attack angle of about 12. Why Viktor went in the abyss was because to hit that low spinner, he needed to create tremendous amounts of actual ball spin. To do that, we need the ball to spend longer on the face. To do that, we need to open the face. But then as we open the face, we increase loft. Now, to hit that low spinner, the launch angle of the ball needs to come out around 35 degrees. And because we've got a 60-degree lob wedge in our hand, we need to de-loft that. But to de-loft it, it changes how much the ball spends on the face. So now I've got to change all these parameters to hit that low spinner. We need the launch angle to be around 30 degrees. My angle of attack needs to be really shallow. And I need to create so much spin so the ball is being cut by the grooves to get the spin to increase. We're spinning at around 4,000 RPM. So what that means is I've got to change my parameters. What do we know as facts? And what I love about swing is we know that our community is leaving a practice session better than they started. And practicing this low spinner will start to mess that up. My sternum, where my chin is where the club hits the ground. The club will then work on a declining angle to my lead shoulder. For a right-hander, that's my left shoulder. So to hit that spinner, if I have my club in front of me, right, and I'm using this T-square as a guide, if I have to hit the ball first and create spin but launch it low, I have to move the ball towards the back of my stance. Now I have to open the face, but now because I'm opening the face, I'm increasing the launch angle. So now I've got to actually just feel like I'm spinning my torso outside in. And as my torso outside in the path of the club, I'm offsetting how much I'm opening the face. Said really simply, there's a shitload that's got to go on to point that arrow to that camera, right? And the problem is it makes you inconsistent. Because instead of keeping golf simple, I, as a guy who points my glove logo to the target, so if I spin around here and go back and hit a couple of chips, if I'm trying to point my club face to the camera, we're going to have my feet parallel left of the camera. My low point is my left shoulder socket, right? And so what I've got here is a T-square, because the T-square is showing me that if my ball is in front of my sternum, I hit the ground first. If the ball is behind my sternum, I hit the ball first. The point is, our job is to be consistent and leave better than, be a better golfer than when we started a session. And I promise you, if you just do the simple things right, you will become a far more consistent golfer and you will break 75 every time you play golf. So let's get back to this improvement pivot point. I've got my 60 in my hand. To create a lot of spin, I have to open the face. Now the arrow is pointing at my language. If the camera flagged the middle of the fairway, every golf shot, in my language at swing is 12 o'clock. We use a clock here a lot. So if I want to hit the camera, and I keep the club face to the camera, I'm going to keep the face nice and quiet the whole time. But to hit that low spinner, I've got to open the face. Now I'm going to hit 2 o'clock. Now I've got to point my body to the left. So my feet and my shoulders are facing 10 o'clock. My face, club face, is facing 2 o'clock. The net of that is I'm going to hit this low to the target, which is where Rosemary is with the camera. Okay. Now to hit that low spinner, I've got to change all my golf swing. We know if our hips lead our torso, we come from the inside. But on this particular shot, I've got to come from the outside. So now I'm throwing out the entire variable of coming from the inside and having my face less than path. I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. For me personally, if I'm trying to hit a chip shot, first shot of the day, I'm going to go straight back, straight through. Okay, there's a little chip shot and it went straight to camera. Why? Because I kept my club face, my leading edge and my face square to the ball, square to the target line. That's how, in my opinion, you should play golf. However, when I hit this big spinner, I can't keep my glove logo pointing to the target. I've got to strengthen my grip. Now my glove logo is pointing to 2. So now I'm going to point my club face to 2 o'clock, my logo to 2 o'clock, the ball's off my back foot, and now I basically smother hook it. That thing's come out super low, and that will spin. I keep the face to the sky. Let me explain again. To hit a straight golf shot, we want to use your hips. As our hips lead, our club trails, and the club comes from the inside. You're going to hit that shot 90% of the time. Okay? And if I do that, the ball goes dead straight. Okay? There's a perfect little low trickle, dead straight. So I've just hit a couple of perfect little chip and runs. To play that spin shot, I have to what we call strengthen my grip. So now I've got to point, as I said, club face to 2 o'clock, logo to 2 o'clock, ball back, shoulders forward to offset how much I'm opening the face. If you practice that, your consistency of producing golf shots diminishes greatly. So what we try to do at Swing is keep it high and tight on facts. I can get you to play any shot you like, understanding ball position relative to sternum and understanding face. Remember, keep golf simple. So remember, to play that low spinner, which you may use once every 3 rounds, changes your whole parameter of face less than path. But I can play an equally soft shot with a higher loft by keeping consistent of face less than path. How do we do it? I'm going to have the ball opposite my left shoulder. Why? Because that's the lowest point the club travels. What does that mean? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. We teach short game very differently in here. We base it off math and physics. So if I have the ball opposite my lowest point, which is my low point of left shoulder, lead shoulder for a right-handed golfer, look how high the arrow's pointing up in the ground. If I want to hit a low shot, I put it behind my right ankle. Now the launch angle starts to change and lowers. But here I want to hit a high little soft shot because I don't have much green to work with. If I keep the club square to where I'm trying to hit the golf ball, which is Rosemary on camera, and I keep the face nice and quiet, I'm going to hit perfect little chip shots, but with the essence of keeping face less than path. There is a perfect low chip shot. My club face never left the target. I hit the ground first because my sternum was behind the ball and I controlled flight. What's the point here? The point is that to hit a really soft, low butterfly with sore feet shot, I'm keeping the same face less than path and I'm keeping the same back and straight through. Our point is, be consistent with your approach, whether you're trying to hit a little chip shot or whether you're trying to hit a 350 drive, the face must be less than path and you've got to use your hips. If we just keep golf consistent, I promise you, you will be better than when you started a practice session. For golf tournaments, it will mean that tour players aren't fluctuating in their performance. Hitting that low spinny shot looks awesome. It's such a waste of time practicing. Our job is to be consistent, consistent, consistent. What is that? Hips lead shoulders, face less than path, and control flight with low point and the bounce of your sand on if you're speaking about short game. Beauty golfers, look, thanks for listening. And remember, the newsletter drops on Fridays. Visit swing.com, share it with your mates. Our job here is to get you to absolutely own your swing with the work you put into the game, off the golf course, indoors, with data, and be consistent. Cheers.